raining all day, so do me a
Oh
favor
my.
and just testify real quick right there in the comments and let us know. Let us know how you're doing, how things are going, and all of that, y'all. So we'll have some announcements right at the end, but we're gonna just get right into our discussion today. Talking about our series that we've been doing called "After This Is Over" or "After This."
Right.
So I'm just really excited. And Sunday's message was about, it won't, no more shame. It won't be long from now, and just talking about
Right.
shame. So just talk about like, how did y'all really, before we just get into everything, what are some of the things that you guys felt while that message was being preached and while well, I always call it a discussion, our discussion.
Discussion. Discussion. Just talking about I just felt just after God got the people attention,
Hmm.
and when you're doing something that's contrary to God's will, and then you wake up from it, and then like that immediate shame come on you,
Hmm.
like you shame because you know better, but you didn't do better, and you once was walking, you know, you know, close to God, and then sometimes you veer off and get off focus, and then tragedy has to happen, to get my attention. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So that whole at the end of that verse where it's saying that you would never be put to shame again,
Hmm.
it was like a promise. Like it's like a reassurance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Even though I messed up,
Right.
even though I'm in my mess, God has promised me that this won't happen again, and I never be put to shame again.
Yeah.
So that kind of like really resonated with me, just even over the history, like over the years of being saved, like we all have like went astray or did something that we didn't have no business, or we stepped out of the will of God, but God promised us, you know what I'm saying, like even now, like we'll never like be put to shame
Right.
again. Like
Yeah.
that really like touched me.
Yeah, it was really awesome because I started thinking about what came to my mind was a person getting a new car
Hmm.
and then it gets repossessed
Right,
and how
right.
shameful you feel. Like
Shame.
you have boasted and bragged on your new car and then they
About
take it.
testified about it and all.
But, when God says, my people, I mean, the statement was so powerful
Right.
because God used the word never.
Never.
Like he said, never
Yeah.
again will you feel this kind of shame. And I just, just think about, as Pastor Rain says, some of the things that we go through in life
Right.
that we felt shame for, but to
Hmm.
hear God say, don't worry about that because you will never,
Right.
ever feel that kind of shame again.
Right.
So
Right.
that was just very powerful. This message has been like a, maybe like it's felt like a tearjerker movie
Right.
to me
Hmm.
because every
Yeah.
Sunday it just really like just to know that even in the midst of the times when God has to do something, how loving he is that he come back and he said, everything I took from you, I'm going to restore it back. I know I had to punish you,
Right.
but now I'm going to bless you. And then
Right.
you use the word extraordinary or
Hmm.
extraordinary.
Extraordinary. Hmm.
Like the way I'm going to bless you, what I took from you is not even going to matter because the way I bless you, you won't even remember what you lost.
Hmm.
Like that's how powerful it has been to me.
The
Oh,
word was
wow.
good.
Yeah,
It was
yeah. So
good.
I've had a great time just sharing whatever it is that God has given. So we're just going to jump right into it, jump right into our discussion. And so, we've been talking a lot about restoration. And of course, we've been defining restoration quite often, as God just setting us up again, putting us back in the original position or condition, and just giving back things, things that we've lost. And I
Right.
always say, that in between trials and circumstances and in between victories there are always things that are lost.
Right.
Right.
If you think about moving, and I hate moving, and I think all of y'all,
Hate it.
I hate moving.
Hate it.
When
Hate
you think about
moving.
moving, no matter how much you pack, there is always something that you end up losing
Hmm.
in the process,
Yes.
Or throwing away
or
one.
throwing away by mistake,
By
or
mistake.
Yes.
Yeah.
or whatever it is. There's always something that you end up losing in the process. And I view circumstances and trials in the same way, or transitions.
Right.
Not always bad, not sometimes good, but there are things that you lose along the way. From relationship to relationship. Maybe you got out of the relationship for all the right reasons, right? But maybe all of the things that you went through while in the relationship,
Right.
there were some things that were lost.
Right.
So I think that being in the middle of problems and being in the middle of circumstances and situations, and coming out, and even if we're coming out for the right reasons, sometimes there are things that we lose along the way.
That is so true.
Yes. But it's not until it's an afterthought.
Right.
It's an afterthought. It's not until you get in a place where you're like, man, I didn't know I felt like that. I didn't know I thought like that. I didn't realize that was an issue for me.
Right.
I didn't realize that I would feel this way when they said this,
Right.
because this wasn't who I was formerly.
Right.
I think that's worth talking about. That sometimes, you go from situation to situation, from circumstance to circumstance, and you don't recognize some of the impact of the pain, of the trauma that's associated with that.
Right, exactly. And I think that's why it's important for people to know how much God cares about our feelings. Because even when you read the Word of God, sometimes God was really going to do some stuff to the people of Israel, but their cries and the things that they said to God was enough to make him change his mind. And so I think that, the feelings that we have, we've been talking about that today, that sometimes we stuff those feelings.
Yes.
Because we don't think that those feelings matter, but they really do. Yeah.
Yeah, and they matter, and we need to remember that they matter to God. And I think that we see that in the text. We see that in this particular text, that what we feel about our situation matters to God. And I think people just need to hear that.
Right.
That
exactly.
what you're feeling and how you feel about it, it matters to God. And so one of the things that was discussed in this was about how God moves us, how God is always using problems and solutions kind of simultaneously, though, right?
Right.
Like he's using the problem and he's leading us to the solution. And sometimes that can be frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Whether people want to, say it or not, sometimes that's frustrating. Like, I'm in a problem. I know he has a solution, but he hasn't given me the solution
Right,
yet.
exactly. I can't see it.
I can't see it. I don't feel it. I don't. And then sometimes we're like, well, is he gonna come through? Is he gonna deliver me? Is he gonna make a way? And so we have to always, and I love the way Noah Jones says it, and I said it on Sunday. He says that God always has one foot in the problem and one foot in the solution.
Yes.
That God is not all problem centered, and he's not all solution centered. Like, he's in both places at the same time.
At the same
What kind of
time.
impact would that make on our relationship with God if we understood that he was in both places at the same time?
We won't worry ourselves to death.
Mm-hmm. I think it changed our perspective too.
Yeah.
Right.
On how we deal with stuff if we could have that picture all the time that he's on both sides.
Right.
He sees the problem, but he already got the solution.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we would just, all just boil down to faith. That's what faith is.
Yeah.
Believing that God is the answer to the problem and he's the solution.
Right.
So it all boils down to your faith. And I think if we just grab a hold to that, like, we would avoid so many pitfalls. We'll avoid so many redos and retries, and, we'll avoid going in circles.
Yes.
Because we understand who has all power. We understand who has the key, to my problem, or has the solution to my problem. So I think it would really save us a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Of wandering, like the children of Israel wander. It'll save us a lot of time.
Yeah. So in the book of Joel, one of the things that God deals with, and for you guys that are following along, we are in Joel chapter 2, verses 25 through 27. And one of the things that he deals with in what we talked about on Sunday, he deals with the word shame. And Hebrew, it means to be put confusion, to be put to confusion. It also means, you know, to be disoriented.
Right.
And so one of the things that God deals with is confusion. And when something gets confused, it's disturbed in mind or purpose.
Right.
You know, and I want to highlight that is that when something is put to confusion and shame in this context, that it is disturbed in mind or purpose. I think that is a lot of those different feelings that we have, and going back and forth and experiencing, you know, 1 minute you know, and then 1 minute you don't know. 1 minute you know, you feel like God is saying this. The next minute you feel like God is saying that. It's that confusion.
Right.
And then that translates into a state of confusion, being completely disoriented. Being completely disoriented in regards to time, when God's going to do it, in place, where he wants me to be, identity, and who he wants me to be. And those are all the things that the enemy attacks in our lives. He uses the moment when we make mistakes,
Yes.
when we get out of the will of God. He uses moments when we are not being what God wants us to be, and he uses that to cause us to be disoriented about time, about place where we should be, and about our identity. I think that we just see that attack on just everybody around
Right.
us.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so what are some of y'all thoughts about being in this moment? Like, how, you know, I know I've been there.
Right.
I've been at the same time. I don't know if I'm in the right timing. I don't know if I'm in the right location. And I don't know who I am. All at the same time. You know, because that's how you lose your sense of purpose. Right?
Exactly.
So just knowing, you know, just that you lose your sense of purpose, you're not really sure of what it is. And it's always in the middle of a problem.
Yeah. In the middle of the problem.